Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today I'm pleased to welcome a young woman whose deeply moving and heart-wrenching life journey has been a remarkable testament to the triumph of the human spirit. At the age of 14, this happy, athletic, and popular young girl suffered a catastrophic spinal cord injury in a jet ski accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down. In an instant, her entire life was turned into the worst nightmare imaginable. In the 16 years since then, by sheer determination and strength of will, she turned herself first into a survivor, then a warrior, and now she's a popular author and media personality. Her first book, entitled Greater Things, compelled me to invite her on our show. Her name is Kristin Beale, and I'm so happy she's here. Kristin, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Kristin, you were a 14-year-old high school student with above average grades. You won 3 competitive sports teams. You were popular, living a pretty typical teenage life. Can you start by telling us how your injury happened?
Yes, like you said, I was on top of the world when I was 14. I had a very easy and a very happy life. And so after my freshman year of high school, I had, tons of friends. I had a good body. I'm really athletic. At the end of the summer, I went to the lake with 3 of my friends, a girl I knew since I was a kid from youth group, a boy I had just met the weekend before, had a really big crush on him, and then a guy I'd never met before. So we went to Lake Gaston, and on the last day, we went on 2 jet skis. So I was the passenger of the guy I had never met before, and then my crush was driving my friend on the other jet ski. And in a combination of driver inattention and a no-wake zone, their jet ski drove onto and on top of my jet ski. So my driver fell forward on dead on impact because he hit the steering wheel. And I was turning around like, what is that noise? So it hit me on the side. It hit me on the left side of the head and the middle of my spinal cord. So I had a traumatic brain injury. I was supposed to die, supposed to not breathe or swallow, all that stuff I'll get back to. But my most minor injuries, I guess, I had a traumatic brain injury on my left side, and I had a spinal cord injury in the middle of my torso, which stretched my spine and paralyzed me ultimately.
You also suffered 2 collapsed lungs, spleen, kidney, and liver damage as well.
Correct. It's a very long list, and a lot of it I can't even comprehend because it's just crazy to think that happened to me and that I, am here today, but there's, a 15-character list of things that happened to me.
I understand that you have no memory of your first few weeks in the hospital following the accident, and so your book includes journal entries by your father, who fills in the blanks and explains what you were going through after your devastating injury. It would be hard to overstate the importance of the incredible support you received from your parents and your sister. You make that very clear in the book, Kristin.
Yeah, so when I was reading back on those journal entries to add them into this book, it was the first time that I had read back all the way far from the beginning of my accident, because I just thought, I'm living it. I don't really need to read back my dad's journal entries. But when I was reading them back to add to this book, my heart is breaking because I'm reading all the stuff that my parents are going through and that, their accounts of what happened to me. And it was very tough. It was humbling, of course. But I'm reading it, and again, I'm like, how is this the same person as I am right now? Because I'm reading all these struggles of like my first days, we'll call it, of coming out of my coma, and when I had short-term memory loss, which lasted for about a month and a half after I quote unquote woke up from my coma, and it's stuff that I completely don't remember at all, which is amazing to me that I have absolutely no memory. But I'm doing all these things and I'm communicating and I'm being a little bit of the Kristin that I am today, but I have no memory of it.
Kristin, your doctors did not expect you to live, and even if you did live, they said you'd basically be a vegetable physically and mentally. You proved them wrong big time.
I sure did.
People like to say your recovery was a miracle, but after reading your book, I think your recovery was a product of your refusal to accept the pessimism of the doctors and your superhuman persistence and fighting spirit. But you wrote that the key to your recovery was faith. Can you tell us about how your faith sustained you?
Yeah, so since I was a kid, I've always been a Christian, but again, my life has been very easy and things, I'm just like a white girl living in the suburbs with a full family. So life is very easy. And then this accident happened and my faith became very tangible and very applicable. So I had the opportunity to, my accident happened, come out of the coma and be angry at God and be angry at my situation and just be like pissed off about everything. But when I woke up, when I came out of my coma, I was so surrounded by my family and my close friends that were saying, this is the miracle that happened. This is what was supposed to happen to you. This is how much it could have been worse, because I could have been a quadriplegic. I could have not had use of my hands. I could have, had been a vegetable because my traumatic brain injury, and I could have died like my friend and all this stuff. I mean, it's never ending list. And so seeing that immediately when I woke up, it's kind of, you can't walk, but you can talk and you can move your hands and you can do all this stuff. So when it was put into that framework, I really see, oh gosh, like there's nothing in my opinion right now, and for a while, like I have a great situation. I have the best of the best possible disability that I could have, because I have so much stuff that I can do that it's kind of harder to concentrate on stuff that I can't do. So that was the kind of foundation of, so I never really went through the why me or anger stage. I kind of flipped right into the faith and seeing the good side of it. So that was very helpful in my recovery mentally.
A lot has been said about the American healthcare system. In Canada and almost every other first world country, everyone gets free healthcare. Given your extensive and prolonged experience in the hospital and in various rehab facilities, what are your thoughts about the American healthcare system?
It's great for the bare minimum. So I say that in terms of my doctors told me you can't move or walk again ever below your injury level, which is mid-torso. Have a nice life. Learn how to transfer into a wheelchair, learn how to off-road on the grass, and onward. In my perspective, my I guess journey began with trying to overcome what they said that I'm not going to be able to do, which is feel and move below my injury, which is walk, run, play sports, feel feelings from the bottoms of my feet, and all that stuff that comes along with that. So the American healthcare system, in my experience, didn't give me any hope or alternative to what science is telling you. Science is telling you you're paralyzed for the rest of your life, but they could have said, but there's hope out there, or if you work hard enough, you can make your situation a little bit better. Not saying that I'm going to heal, because you can't really make that promise, or recover, but just to give you a little hope. And once you pursue that hope, like I did, as far as like going to gyms to work out, to get all these feelings and sensations of movement back, you're on your own completely. There's no funding, there's no money out there except for what I have. And it would be cool to be given hope by the doctors and to be supported in my journey, at least a little bit, but not at all.
Kristin, you wrote a lot in the book about the rapport between you and your physical therapists. You liked some, you disliked others. Can you articulate for us, what are the qualities of a good physical therapist?
Yeah, so the physical therapist in my book, I'm a little bit harsh on, mostly because everything that had to do, in that point in my life, everything that had to do with disability, I did not like, because I did not like my disability. I was rejecting it in my mind while also having to embrace it. So those physical therapists who were teaching me how to transfer or off-road, which at the time, off-roading on the grass was like the worst thing that I can imagine. But those therapists who were making me do that were also the worst people that I can imagine, just because I was so, I guess, I was a little bit bitter about my situation. I didn't like anything associated with disability. Things that good therapists, that makes up a good physical therapist, is, again, someone who gives me hope, supports my dream, and doesn't say, don't bother, with the mind-body connection of your lower body because it's not worth it. But somebody who says, I'm going to help you to achieve this dream. And I believe that you can get feeling or movement back, and somebody who kind of supports that. That's the key to people in my life after my accident. If you're not going to support me doing all the things that I'm doing to rehabilitate my body, then I don't have time for that.
So really, the best therapists are the ones who believe in your goal of restoring your body in every way possible. Is that a fair summary?
Correct. Yes.
Now, you are a very strong believer in the mind-body connection, and you say that it's the key to overcoming your disability. Can you explain for us how that works?
Yes. So the mind is the most powerful force on the universe, I believe. I had no feeling and no sensation, so I couldn't, feel or move anything after my accident. I went to California 2 weeks out of the hospital. I went to California to a place called Project Walk for a month and a half. I worked out 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, not only on strengthening the muscles, my upper body muscles, but also things like the therapist is kicking my leg and I'm thinking about kicking my leg and I'm trying to feel it, which sounds very ambiguous, but just like feeling the movements and visualize, a lot of visualization, all that stuff. And eventually, I'm not making this sound very easy. Well, I'm making it sound easy. It's a lot harder than it seems, but eventually I learned to crawl. I regained sensation, pressure sensation in my lower body. I can kick a little bit, like when you're moving my leg, I can initiate the movement a little bit, and just closing your eyes and visualizing it happening and trying to feel it happening for a lot of time. I can wiggle my toes. A lot of things came back to me because the power of the mind and believing that I can do it and just not giving up on that. It's nothing comes easy, and that does not come easy either.
Well, it's amazing that you're so committed to it. You know, Kristin, many people who've experienced what you went through say that they were pushed so hard into rehab and physiotherapy that they weren't given adequate time to absorb the emotional impact of the injury and to actually grieve the loss of their mobility. But on the other hand, some say that not having time to feel sorry for yourself because you're kept so busy with rehab is probably a good thing. Where do you stand on that? What do you think?
I say it's definitely a good thing, because laying around feeling sorry for yourself and focusing on the things that you can't do is a big old waste of time. It's emotional healing, I realize that, but the time that you can be laying around feeling upset is also the time that you can be working to better your situation. So when I woke up in the hospital, my parents were already a month deep into research of how to rehabilitate me, get my feeling and my sensation and movement back, and find Project Walk. So they told me when I woke up in October, they said, you have about 2 months. Let's get out of here. Learn how to do what these therapists want you to do. Let's blow this joint, and we're going to California. So the sooner that you can do that, the sooner that we're out and we're working toward your rehabilitation. And that's something that was very helpful to me, because I didn't want to waste the time just laying around feeling sad. I wanted to get my butt to gear and learn this stuff so I can get out of the hospital and I can start my new life as a paralyzed teenager, which had a lot of struggles, but I didn't focus on them very much.
Now, at one point when you were at the Kennedy Krieger Institute, you met with Dr. John McDonald, who was Christopher Reeve's doctor. Was he of any help to you?
He was actually a very cool person. I really enjoyed my time with him, which was short because he's a busy man, but he did help me at the time. At the time I was working out at Kennedy Krieger, and he came to a therapy session one time, and he gave me some little pointers. I can't really remember any of them, but I do remember he was a really surprisingly relatable and funny guy. So I did appreciate that.
Kristin, your attitude to recovery was to leave no stone unturned. You even went to the Dominican Republic for a stem cell treatment. Did it have any effect?
So I went there twice. I went there the first time. I went to Dominican Republic, and then I went straight to California, worked out for a month and a half, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, that whole routine. And by the time I left California, I came home and I could crawl. I learned how to crawl. I learned how to pick up my leg and initiate the movements myself, which I couldn't do before. So I was very excited about it. I'm sorry, I went there 3 times. And so I went back a couple months later, 6 months later, and got the stem cells again and did the same workout routine. And I didn't get any return back. So they called me up and they said, are you coming back? And I said, no, maybe not, because I didn't get any return. And so they said, we'll help you out. Come out again, do it again. So I went the third time. I didn't get any returns. So that was very early on. That was in I guess 2011 and 12. So things have advanced a lot, and I think that they're definitely farther on than they were back then. So I would consider it. Again, there's a lot of other electrical stimulation. They're doing a lot with eStim on your spinal cord. There's a lot of other avenues to explore, and science is catching up really fast, which is so exciting. I don't think I'd go the stem cell route again, but I did get a little bit of return from that.
Well, that's good. You endured innumerable therapies of every kind because you literally had to relearn how to do everything from speaking to personal hygiene to simple basic movements. And you fought adversity at every turn. You described your approach to recovery as non-traditional. What was different about what you did compared to what other people did?
So non-traditional, what I meant by that was the doctors told me, learn to be in a wheelchair. But I said, I took the opposite approach. I said, no, I want to get out of this wheelchair and I want to get back to the body that I used to have. So the non-traditional, meaning going against what the doctors told me that I should do and would be able to do. And that is very road less traveled, but it gives me a purpose in my life to really rehabilitate my body, but also kind of the journey to get there has built me into such a stronger, more resilient, and just stronger person in my faith and in my will. And it's the best route that I could have taken.
Well, maybe it's a road that will be more traveled because of you and the message in your book.
I sure hope so, because it's the way to win a disability, overcome a disability.
You know, Kristin, I have to tell you, your book, Greater Things, is full of so many special moments during your journey. The surprise welcome home with 400 people on your front lawn when you came home from the hospital after 4 months. And of course, the monumental moment when you actually walked across the stage to get your diploma at your high school graduation and your college graduation to thunderous standing ovations. Can you take us back to those graduation ceremonies? Tell us what was going through your mind.
So high school was, of course, my first, and that was incredible, to use a word that I can't think of a bigger word, but that was incredible because these people knew me before my accident as the vibrant, athletic, 200 friends, and then they saw me at my worst when I was in my accident and I was recovering and I was, getting tired pushing from class to class because I had no strength until, I graduated. I was a little bit better. So they saw me before and after. So then it was a complete surprise. I didn't tell anyone that I was doing it, but so me walking across the stage is like they're seeing this girl that they used to know, kind of like fighting, and they've seen the least. So that was incredible. That was my biggest fun. And then in college, I was able to do it again. These people have already only known me as a disabled person. So again, it was a little bit of a surprise to everyone. But that was really good because in that context, I was only Kristin, the girl in the wheelchair. And now they're saying, oh, wait, she works really hard. I know she goes to the gym all the time. I know that she's doing all this stuff, and now she's walking across the stage. So in both times, it had a big impact of who I am and other people and what kind of person I am to work toward it. But most importantly, it meant a lot to me because it was doing this big thing, which is graduating from high school and college, but doing an even bigger thing that's even more important to me is walking and rehabilitating and being able to achieve that.
Well, I have to tell you, of everything in your book, and I must tell you, the book is really a book that stays with you. For many reasons, those chapters that dealt with you getting into those contraptions and walking across the stage will stay in my heart forever.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, you said, and I'm quoting you here, one of the unseen side effects of a disabling accident is that you have to try to be understanding and polite to people who say all kinds of lame and sometimes annoying things. What kinds of things do people say to you that are lame and annoying?
So I get to this a little bit in my comic book. There are like 5 or 6 jokes that people make, like little comment. For example, I mean, it's not offensive. It's just like lame humor. So like for my wheelchair, it's kind of like, where's some, you should get blinkers on that thing so I know which way you're going, or do you have headlights and like so you can see in the dark? Just stuff that's like stupid. It's just like, I mean, I'm sorry for anyone who has said that before, but it's just like not funny. And so just making little comments like that. It's not offensive, like I said, but it's just dealing with people's, I guess, naivety. So they don't really know how to act, which is understandable because for a long time in high school, I didn't really know how to act because I was figuring out my disability. So I'm kind of figuring out how to treat me and interact with me alongside my peers who were doing that. And we were all kids. So we're all just kind of figuring out together. So some questions that are kind of not great. And when I was dating, especially in the Date Me book is when that really comes out. But that was riddled with comments, like inappropriate comments or like silly questions, like, or just like rude statements that I deal with. But it's fine because I understand that people don't really know how to interact with me, and people for the most part are nice. They just don't know, or they just don't know how they're coming across. And, you know, I'm someone who can laugh off anything. So it's a good characteristic to have being in a wheelchair.
I think there is a certain discomfort among people who think that they have to say something to make you feel good when what they're really doing is making an ass out of themselves.
Yeah, and they're really just pulling me apart from everyone else so much when they have to like address it, or they have to like my disability, or they have to say something about it. It's kind of just like, let me blend in, like let me be one of you. But people just have to call me out, which again is fine because, you know, whatever, it didn't bother me that much.
Now, one of the other things that really amazes me about you is that you are an incredibly athletic person. You've engaged in almost every adaptive sport: skiing, rowing, lacrosse, and especially hand cycling. You've completed numerous 26.2-mile marathons, which is amazing. Can you put into words the importance that sports plays into your life?
Yeah, so before my accident, I was a competition cheerleader, lacrosse, and field hockey player. So sports, I've been doing sports since as long as I can remember. And when I learned that I was paralyzed, my biggest loss was sports, because in my head, I can't do any sports anymore because I'm in a wheelchair. And my only sport that I have is the gym. So I went to the gym, you know, all the time. And that was, you know, my new sport. It's boring. Going to the gym is boring, and I've run out of things to do. And it's boring. So I learned, but then I discovered adaptive skiing. Was up for my first sport. That came about a year and a half after my accident. And from there, I tried every adaptive sport that I can get my hands on. And last time I counted, it was 13 different sports, which is awesome. And I've landed on wheelchair fencing. So I'm nationally competing wheelchair fencer. I compete for the United States. And I am very exciting news. On Halloween of this year, I am doing my 10th marathon. The Marine Corps Marathon is one of my favorites. And I just got a spot in, and I'm very excited. I'm racing with Achilles International on Team Achilles, the Chris and Dana Reed Foundation, kind of their sports chapter, and number 10. And I'm so excited.
Congratulations, Kristin. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Kristin, your third book is called A Million Suns, which is the sequel to Greater Things. You write about regaining the passion in your life through adaptive sports. And I mean every sport imaginable: tennis, horseback riding, golf, skydiving, rock climbing, fencing. It's unbelievable. These are very expensive sports, aren't they? And you suffered some serious injuries. Was it worth taking some of the risks you took?
So both answers are yes. They're very expensive, but worth it, because I'm trying. The whole premise, the whole theme of A Million Suns is trying to find my passions that I lost with my disability. So we have sports, we have hobbies, we have my now husband. We kind of have a story of how we first met. But it's very expensive, but it's worth it because I'm trying to find my love and I'm trying to find my passions. And now that I've tried all those tons of sports, I have the landed on two. So it's worth it. Very expensive. And the injuries that I got during it were relatively minor, but they're all worth it because sports are so important to me, because it's my ability to go out into the world, either in a different vehicle, like my hand cycle, the bike that I do marathons in, or just to do something like fencing that people can look at and say, oh, that's really cool. I'm impressed. Look at that cool girl, instead of looking at me in my wheelchair and saying, oh, pity on her. She can't walk or do all these things. So sports are very important because, one, it's an outlet for me to actually work really hard and see the results of my work and my performance, but then also to show up in something else other than a wheelchair and be something impressive, I guess, in the world.
And you're also inspiring other people. Don't forget that.
Thank you.
Now, your second book, called Date Me, is a comic book that describes some of the challenges of having a social life and a romantic life when you are in a wheelchair. And you're turning the book into a TV show. Can you tell us about that?
So exciting. Dream come true is to write a book. Second dream come true is to have a TV show. Date Me is about dating in a wheelchair. I went on 32 dates in 2.5 months. Wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It was insane. But then I changed their names and I made them into comics and I published a book. And so these, like I said, these dates go from rude comments, invasive questions, just treating me, like a child, or very differently because of my disability. In 32 dates, I only had a couple successful ones, none that lasted very long, but only a couple successful ones. And I was approached by Saltfire Studio to turn Date Me into a TV show. So we flew out Kristin, the girl who's playing Kristin, from California, and we have all these dates coming from different states. And we've cast in the first episode, we've cast my best friend Katie and my dad, 7 dates. And so I get to online date again by picking out these people who I'm going to go on dates with. But the best part is I don't have to actually go on the dates. So I can just pick who I want to play these people I go on dates with, and I can direct this person playing Kristin, say it more, say it sweeter, so I can direct her how to be me, which is really cool. So first episode, they go on 7 dates. We're recording the second episode in this August. We're fundraising to do the rest of season 1. But the first episode can be found on YouTube. If you just search Date Me, you can watch the first one and then join the party for episode 2, because it's coming out hopefully this year.
All right. So for the benefit of our viewers, we will put a chyron underneath us now.
We have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Date Me Series on Facebook, and then Date Me Show on Instagram.
Well, Kristin, in your first book, you wrote that you have the happiest life of anyone you know. What's the best part of your life?
Right now, the best part of my life is my dog, Achilles, who you'll read about. She was named after Achilles International, the team I race marathons for, and she's my little Achilles. The independence, the overall independence. So I guess having Achilles, having my own house, I built my first house, having my own house, having Achilles, and just being able to show up in this world as a quote unquote normal adult who can be independent, and I can, do things and I can accomplish things on my own. But beyond that, I can accomplish things like doing marathons and doing things that I want, and being able to, I guess, share my story.
Well, Kristin, I have to tell you that you're a real inspiration. Reading about the way you've embraced your new life path after your catastrophic brush with death should make all of us re-examine our own lives and focus on what really matters, and appreciate the things that many of us take for granted. Your story is so uplifting, and it's an honor to have you on our show. Thank you so much for being here, Kristin.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
I wish you the very best in all of your endeavors, and especially good health. And with all the new research coming out on spinal cord injury, I'm praying that you're going to continue to make big progress on regaining your mobility. And I'm going to be following your progress and your exciting career and the TV show with great interest.
Thank you very much.
Our guest has been author and media personality Kristin Beale. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you to our producer, Steve Silver. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Remember to subscribe to the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. And be sure to check out more great interviews with Harvey Brownstone on harveybrownstoneinterviews.com.